Okay, so hello guys, welcome to another lecture on CS 102. So today we will be beginning with malloc and calloc, right? So very simple functions, and hopefully the lecture is short today, right? So the screen is visible, and okay, the audio seems fine. So why are malloc and calloc actually used? So initially, just let me tell you that there is something known as okay, dynamic memory allocation. So what do I mean by dynamic memory allocation? So as you can see from the name itself, dynamic and memory allocation. So memory allocation means something where you are allotting memory, and why the word dynamic comes. Okay, so let me just take a small example in this particular case. When I say integer, let's say age, I'm defining an array of 50, right? So basically I want to store age of, let's say, 50 students. So now this is called a static memory allocation. Why static? Because if you see 50 here is static. I already said that okay, I want only 50 students. Now whether I enter one student, two students, 10 students, or 50 students, the compiler will allocate me 50 memory blocks, and each memory block, since it's an integer, it will take 4 bytes. So 200 bytes of memory its result, right? So 200 bytes of memory is reserved. Now what is the disadvantage of this approach that we already saw in array is that, for example, if you are declaring only 4 students, then the 46 memory allocations go waste. Fine. Now you may be saying, sir, okay, we have like 12 GB of memory and nowadays 1 TB hard disk are coming. Why do we care about these few bytes? So now just imagine the days when we had in 1970s, when C came into picture, we had a 4-bit microprocessor, right? 4-bit. Now we have 64-bit, right? So that time we really had a lot of memory constraint, right? So at that time, spacing each and every byte was very essential and very much required. Fine. So that is why we basically use malloc, right? So memory allocation, right? So malloc, if you see, what does it stand for? Memory allocation. Hence, M for memory and alloc is for allocation. Now, how does it work? So let me just take an example. I'm using system CLS just to clear the screen. If you are using Mac or Linux, then just use the clear command. Right? So see how the declaration go about. I am having integer star p. So p basically will hold an address. As of now, p is holding nothing. So this is a declaration of malloc. See how does malloc actually declare? So what I'm saying, malloc, what I'm saying 1 into size of integer means I am asking the compiler. Okay, so just let me do one thing. So when I'm saying malloc, right? So malloc takes two arguments, right? It takes two arguments. So first is, this is argument 1, argument 2. This is, you can just remember this like a count, and this as the size of, right? Just for simplicity. Okay, let me just minimize this pen color. So let's say if you want to allot 10 integers, right? You want to, let's say in an array of 10, how do you do that using a malloc? So you keep this variable as 10, and let's say you want an integer array of 10 members. So how do you do that using malloc? You use basically this command, right? So malloc, I want 10 memory locations which are of the size integer. Now this can be anything. This can be also a floating size, this can be a long size, this can be of a character size, or anything that you want to have. So see what is happening here, 1 multiplied by, right? So basically there is no comma here, there is a multiplication sign here, there is a multiplication. So what is the size of int? If you just print out, size of print is 4, right? 4 bytes. So when I do 1 into 4, that means this bracket is giving me 4 bytes of memory allocation. So when I do malloc, how will I read? Malloc 4 bytes. That means allocate memory of 4 bytes. Now you see int star p. P was a pointer variable. and pointing to type integer. So finally you need to typecast it to an integer data type. If this were a float kind of thing, you would have typecasted it to a float kind of thing, right? The reason here we do that is because malloc basically returns a void pointer. We will see what is a void pointer, because malloc, even though it allocates a size of this, it does not know what is the pointer of it, right? So malloc returns a void pointer. We will see in a while what is a void pointer. So basically, let me just execute this statement for you, what happens here, because in the output you don't realize much what will happen in this case. Int start right. So we begin the execution from right hand side to the left hand side. So 1 into what is size of int? Size of int is 4 bytes. So this gets semicolon, right? So this becomes malloc of 4. That means allot 4 bytes, right? So in the memory location, let's say you are beginning from memory location 2000, you will go up to 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003. In general, n plus 4 minus 1, right? That is basically there are 4 memory locations starting 2000, right? So what will malloc basically return, right? So malloc will basically return the base address, that is 2000. But now malloc does not know whether this will hold an integer or float or something else. So you remember when we did pointers, we actually need to specify what is the type of pointer. If we make an integer pointer and then point to float, it will return a garbage value. So for that particular thing, since it is returning a void because it does not know what it is, we typecast here. So this is typecast. So now this pointer, so this P now will be pointing to 2000 and star P will be pointing to the content of this particular memory location. So this is how malloc works. Now one important thing about malloc is, see again compilers are very optimized these days. So what we have studied and what will you see in the literature online? See, by default, malloc will assign a random value. So if you see we have P, this is the address, and star P. Whenever you do a malloc, so what will malloc do? It will assign some gibberish value, 5, 4, 1, 2. Just assume some random value it will assign by default, right? And in this case, if you can see, we are basically assigning the value 23. Let me just execute the code so you can get a clear idea. So now you can see what I'm doing. I am allocating a memory which is of 1 byte, and then I'm printing the value, right? I'm printing star P. As you can see in the notes, I told you it will have a gibberish value because malloc has this property that it will give a gibberish value at the start, right? So you can see we have a random value here. For star P, you can see here, for star P, we have 1, 2, 5, some random value. Then what do? I do a star P is equal to 23. So what I'm doing here, now I'd say star P is equal to 23. So now I have physically assigned the memory location address of 23, right? So now if you see 23 was my value which has come, and I'm also printing the address of P, right? Because P is a pointer variable, right? Star P here. So P basically will hold an address. So you can see the address is 208. Now there is another function which is known as free, right? See, when you allocate memory by your own self, you do not let the compiler do that. You are explicitly assigning a memory allocation. So in that case, it becomes your own responsibility to basically free the memory also, right? It's just like, when you create something, it is your responsibility to basically finish the task also. So by free, what we are saying that, okay, now this memory location is no longer required by me. So this memory location is no longer required by me. So when I execute free of P, so P basically deallocates the memory. So this becomes a free memory block. So what do I mean by a free memory block? So by a free memory block, let's say if I am defining here int b is equal to 56, right? Since I could free up the memory location p, what will happen? The compiler, while executing, can assign b the value 56 having the same base address 2000. Why? Because we had freed the memory location at this particular point. If we would not have freed the memory location at this particular point of time, the compiler would not have allotted B the location 2000. Instead, it would have been something like 2004 or something of random of, let's say, 3000. So a good programming practice is to always free up the memory location whenever you do not require it, right? Now what will happen, let's say if you forget to write free. So let's say I comment this out. So let's say while programming I forgot to write free p. So in this case what happened? So when the compiler executes the last line of the code and exits the program, it will automatically free up, right? So it's just like, for example, of course you are not at the hostels currently. So when you leave your hostels after 4 years, so let's say there is some stuff which is remaining in your room, it will be automatically cleaned up by the cleaner guy or the janitors, right? Then you have no responsibility. So, but the issue here is that, let's say if you don't clean up the memory location, right? So let's say what happens, instead of one, let's say you have 10,000 block allocation here. You allocate 10,000 block, and let's say at this particular line, so all operations relating to 10,000 blocks is done, right? At this particular line, everything is done. Now what happens, and if you don't use free, right, technically then you should use a free p, free p. So what will happen, in the current execution run only, the program will basically have 10,000 into 4, 40,000 bytes which are free. But if you don't use free, it will basically occupy the memory at this particular point of time. Right? So this is why always whenever you are using a malloc, at least ensure that you are using free command whenever you feel like, okay, the value is now no longer needed. So let me execute the code again. So see, before allocation of, see, the memory is allocated at step number 13, all good. Since you are using malloc, the value will be random, that you can see at this particular point. Then I assign the value 23, which is fine. I get a value of 23. Now I again print both the values, value as well as address. So you can see the value is 23 and the address is 592. Now what do? I do a free p, right? When I do a free, as I said you again, I am basically cancelling out everything here, right? I am cancelling out everything. So I lose the memory location, so I lose the address also, right? But as I said, compilers are too optimized these days. So let us see, when I do a value, see, I'm freeing here p. So I basically lose the value of 23 since the memory location is lost. So now when I print star p, you can see I get a random value instead of 23. One thing you may observe here is that the compiler is keeping the same address location for that variable, and which is okay, right? Nothing to worry about it, because if you remember our function calls, right, even though we were not using static, we were again and again assigning the same memory location between the function calls, right? All these steps are basically helping the compiler to make it more optimized. So it's just like, for example, the compiler exactly knows what memory location to go in order to access the variable of a function, right? So let's say if it is a random location every time, you just take a small example. Let's say from your home, you have a fixed grocery store for buying the groceries. Now, every time you need to go there, let's say you have a static time, right? From the home to the grocery and back home, the time is constant. But let's say if you are asked that, okay, choose a random grocery store every time. So what will happen? The turnaround time, maybe the next time the grocery location is very near, but at time the grocery location is too far. So that is why what these compilers do these days is like, usually they retain the memory address so that in case I'm using the p again, right? Let's say in case I'm using this malloc again here, right? So it will basically help to reassign the address pretty quickly, right? It will save few milliseconds, right? So that is the concept of malloc. So malloc and free go together. You allocate memory location, you say how many number of locations you want and what is the size of that each location, right? So along with malloc, there is something called as calloc, right? So in calloc, if you can see, in malloc, we do 1 multiplied by size of location. Calloc, only one thing changes. Instead of multiplication, I am using the comma. But internally, the same thing happens. I will allocate one location into the size of this particular. Internally, the multiplication happens. But what happens in calloc, the default is assigned to 0. The default value is given 0. So let me just execute this code. So you can see initially, right, I just allocated this particular memory location. So if I see the previous code, I allotted a memory location. And when I printed this value, you can see, let me just execute the code again. You can see I got the value as a random value. But in case of calloc, I am getting the value as 0. Why? Because calloc has this property of assigning 0 to every memory allocation that it does. In this case, it has done only one memory allocation. If it was the case like it was doing 100 memory allocation, all the 100 memory allocations would have been given a value 0, right? So between calloc and malloc, I will always prefer to use calloc, right? So I get auto initialized to 0, right? Again, when you use the value free, you basically lose out the particular value. So let us print the value after doing it free. Let us see what comes. It should return 0, but can be random also. Now, why this value is random, right? Because as I said, let me just bring you back to the board again. Some bug with the software. Okay, fine. Okay, just a second, guys. I think some issue with my pen. Okay, so you have a memory space here, right? There are many memory locations. So the moment you write this particular statement, p is equal to integer star calloc 1 comma int, sorry, size of int. So what happens, it picks up a complete memory cell, let's say the base address is 2000, and assigns it to p. So ampersand p will refer to 2000, and since it is calloc, it will assign 0 in its particular location, right? So star p by default will be equal to 0 in case of calloc, right? Because it's a calloc function, it is assigning a value 0, right? Rest of the things remain the same. So now when you do free p, right? So when you do free of p, you basically lose the access to this particular memory location, right? When you lose the access to a particular memory location, when I'm doing a star p, it may point to some random memory allocation, let's say 8000, right? Even if it, let's say pointing to 2000, the moment you do free p, right, this complete value is also lost and replaced by a garbage value, right? So in the case when you are saying that even when I'm doing free p, and if the address of p is same as the 2000, you may still encounter a garbage value, because the moment you did a free p, this 0 is lost and replaced by a garbage or a random value, right? So now again the same thing, you can also use malloc with the string also, right? So just a simple example, the same thing. I am just taking the, in the integer, what I am doing, I am doing the string length of Sachin Tendulkar, right? I am storing that particular length into this particular variable length, right? And how many variables? So basically this should be char, should have the same output, yeah. So see what I'm doing here. So basically I'm assigning length plus 1. Why length plus 1? Because I also need to encounter for the slash 0. String length will give me exact this length without the slash 0. So I'm doing length plus 1 and size of character. So let's say the string 1 length is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 16. So this will be 17 bytes allocation, and then we are doing a string copy. That's it. So this is a say same example, and then since we are doing malloc, we are also doing free in the end. So since our copy operation and the printf was done, we can actually free the string, right? See the main use of, okay, now let us take a break for 5 minutes, guys, and then we will come back. Yes.
Sir, can you please explain again that why we don't need to typecast in star malloc?
Acha, in star malloc. Okay. In star malloc, because see, when malloc is allocating memory, right, the malloc does not know. See, malloc basically returns you an address, right? So let me just go back to the drawing board. See, you remember, if I have an integer star p, and let's say I have a character star p, right? Let's say the base address in both the cases 2000. Do you remember what happens if I do p plus plus? In this case, it gets incremented by a location of 4. In case of character, it gets incremented by a location of 1, right? Similarly, if I have a long, it will be incremented by 8 bytes. Now what happens in case of malloc when I do, or even in the case of calloc, I actually know how much memory to actually assign. I know from this particular bracket how much memory I need to assign. But then I do not know. So let me just come back here. So let's say you are assigning 5 bytes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? 5 bytes you are assigning. And the base address here is 2000. Right? Now malloc will say, okay, assigned 5 bytes successfully. Base address is 2000. Right? So basically, this will be the output of malloc. It says, okay, I have assigned 5 bytes. I am done with my task, and the base address is 2000. Now from location 2000, do whatever you want. Now you realize from our pointer explanation how important this particular thing is. Even if we know the base location of a pointer, it is important to know whether that base location points to an integer, the base location points to a float, or the base location points to a character, because or else the pointer will behave very randomly. Just for this reason, we basically do a int star. Now when I say I am doing an int star, I am basically saying, okay, Now from location 2000, I am having something which is pointing to an integer, right? So if I am having this particular, so let's say P is after the output of malloc, right? Whatever we are writing, and we are doing int star. Now when I do P plus plus, P will be incremented by 4, and which is what we want. Let's say we are storing an integer array, so we actually want that our pointer should actually increment in steps of 4. To ensure that it increments in steps of 4, we basically need to do int star. Fine, I hope this clears that out.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So okay, we will just start this. So the real use of malloc will come at this particular location, when you will get an answer to why we actually, in the arrays, how can we prevent the wastage of space. Like let's say you define array of 100 and then you are only using, let's say, only 15 elements. How can you overcome that? So again, a very simple example: I equal to 0, y less than 5, so it will allocate actually 5 elements, right? So you can see I am doing a malloc with 5 elements. I need 5 into size of int. Let me just execute this code. So enter value. Basically it's asking me to enter 5 values. So 9, 45, 1, minus 8 and 6, right? And you can see the 5 values basically are 9, 45, 1, minus 8 and 6, which are the same which I entered. And just observe the memory location: 816, 820, 824, 828 and 832. They are having a gap of 4 bytes. Why? Because when you do an int star, malloc knows, okay, 5 into size of int, so it has allocated me 5 into 4, 20 bytes of memory location. But in case we wish to know, okay, what is the content of those data type, we want to say that, okay, it's a type of int data type, right? So now hence it perfectly makes the address and basically increments everything by 4. So let me do a wrong output right now. Let me do a char star, right? So let us see what will be the output. 1, 5, 6, 8, 7. Okay, strangely, it is giving a correct output. Should not have given a correct output. Let me just check. So, most probably compiler optimization these days. That's it. But technically, this should give a wrong output to you all. If you are assigning a character pointer, and let's say if I even do this a size of character, does it take it into account? No, it's not taking into account. It should not work. Logically, if you read any textbook or any reference books, it will tell you that it won't work, right? For the simple logic of pointers, because unless you typecast into a proper type of pointer, as I explained you, P++ in that example, this should not work, right? So even if I'm having a quiz question where I say, okay, this is a wrong data type assignment, the answer should be like, it will give a garbage output. Technically, the output should have been a garbage value. Value and address. P is a type of this. Okay, so basically if you see in this particular case, I am just doing an array of 5 elements instead of basically declaring something of integer p of 5, right? So now you will say ki, okay, even if I'm not declaring p of 5, I am actually allocating this as a constant thing. So this is almost as if like I'm declaring a static array, right? So in case of dynamic array, what can we do? Now see, this is a very interesting example. I am taking integer star p, right? So when I take integer star p, so what I'm doing here, I'm asking the user to enter the number of terms, right? So when I ask the user to enter the number of terms, now you can just see the malloc. I am doing n, so I'm asking user enter the number of terms, and then I'm actually doing malloc n into size of int, right? So now this ensures no space wastage, right? Just observe this particular line. Now this ensures that there is no space wastage. So let me just run the code. So enter the number of terms. Okay, let me run the code. Sorry guys. Enter the number of terms. Let's say I enter 6 terms. 125, 498, minus 6, 23, and 7. Right? So now you can see the values are 125, 4, 98, minus 6. All of them appear correctly. They are spaced at a location of 4 locations each, 804, 808, 812, 816. Fine. And on top of that, see, I need not specify an array which is of dynamic size, right? Of a static size, I mean. So I did not declare anything like p of 50, and then I only used few terms of it. So nothing like that. I just declared an initial pointer. Now let us again run the code, and now just do for only 3 terms, 1, 9, 44. Right? So in the end, I also written a code to do the sum of the element 44 plus 9 plus 1. So you can see instead of arrays, if you have a space limitation and you want to optimize it, you can directly use malloc in this particular fashion. You just initialize the number of terms, declare malloc, and then, okay, in this particular location, what happens? Let's say the malloc is not able to specify, I mean, it's not able to fulfill your memory location requirement. Let's say you give a very huge size for n. Let's say you say n as, let's say, such a huge number which is beyond the integer range and something like this. So if somehow for some reason the malloc is not able to fulfill your requirement, it will basically return a null, right? It returns a null. So what happens? Null basically equals to 0 in internal compilation, right? Compiler treats null as 0. So hence we are checking this if not p. So let's say if the memory was successfully allocated, so p basically will be not null value, right? So p will have some base address as 2000, let's say. So if not 2000, so this becomes false. I come to the else part, and then I just do the standard if loop like I do in arrays, right? And then I just do a sum element, and in the last you can see I just need to write a free p statement. I need not individually clear all the memory locations. Why? Because p is a pointer and all the memory allocations are done with respect to p. So p now knows from where to what point you need to clear the memory location. So this is a very good example where you realize how can you use malloc in order to overcome the array deficiencies. Fine. And as you can see, just like arrays, they are stored in consecutive memory locations. Fine. So again, the same program using calloc. So calloc works exactly the same, just it will initialize the value to 0, right? So for example, let me just do, let me just try to printf here. See, when I try to put this statement, so the moment I entered 5 terms, you can see I'm just displaying the value of those 5 allotted blocks. You can see all of them are 0, right? Why? Because I used calloc, and calloc assigns them a 0 value. See, it is possible that when you compile on the latest compilers, okay, oh, sorry, that makes a mistake. Enter the number of terms is 5. So you can see all the 5 terms are assigned 0 value, and let's say I am entering 5 terms, 9, 4, 7, 8, 5, and minus 5, right? So when I am assigning these 5 terms, all the zeros are basically replaced by the individual 5 terms. So see, it is again possible that in case of malloc, When I execute this, it is possible that some latest versions of compiler, see my version of compiler, if I say you, it is 6.3 GCC minus V. So this GCC version is 6.3.0. You may be having a GCC version 7. The latest version of GCC is 9.4. But in all the reference book that you will read, malloc assigns a random value or a garbage value, calloc assigns 0. Right? So let us just try to execute this code again. See, in case of malloc, it gave 5 random value. Right? So the correct answer in case of quiz and all, malloc gives a random value and calloc gives 0 assignment. Okay, now there is a very strange program which is known as reallocation, right? So you have studied malloc, calloc, and now we come to realloc, right? So what happens to realloc and how does it work? So let's say you are working on a dynamic program and like you are using an array. Basically, you are using the functionality of an array using malloc, something to this case, right? You are asking enter the size of dynamic array and you are entering n. Right? So let us back to the drawing board. So just let me do a next here. So there is some issue with my digital pen today. I don't know for what reason. Okay, some issue, but anyways, we will continue with the lecture. I will try to explain it to here only. What happens in malloc? So let's say in the initial case, you assign, let me just execute this code, right? Enter the size of dynamic array. Let's say I'm entering 4 and I'm entering some simple values 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, right? So what happens here in this particular case, my initial size of array was 4 and I'm taking 4 elements and all the 4 are getting displayed correctly. Now suddenly if I feel actually I needed not 4 but I needed actually 7 elements, right? I not needed 4 but I needed 7 elements. Let us say for example you are doing some kind of a competition where you are expecting the participants to register, and let's say you are expecting that not more than 20 will register in your competition. So let's say you keep this size of dynamic array initially as 20. Now suddenly your competition becomes very popular and additional 30 participants want to come into the picture. Now you had prepared only for 20 picture for 20 participants. Now you want additional 30. So see, it says enter the new size of dynamic array. So you have to enter the total new size. So for example, if I want to make an array of size 7, I already had a size of 4. So let me enter 7 here. So now it is asking me to enter additional values. Additional value means I have already entered 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. So what will I do? I will add 5, 5, 6, 6 and 7, 7. So now you can see all the new values are these after 33, 44, 55, 66 and 77. Okay, there is some error here. It should have been 11, 22, 33. Let me just check it out. X is equal to n. Realloc. Okay. Probably where is the realloc? Okay, realloc here is done. And initially, what did I assign? Initially, it passed to this. N is equal to x. Enter the size of this. Reallocate. So 7. This should have come 7 into size of int. Basically makes it this, and this gives the location. So it should have come properly actually. Maybe a small bug. 1, 2, 3, 5, 4 and 5. So 3, 4, 5 are coming and address is this, and basically 1 and 2 are losing out. So somehow 1 and 2 are getting lost. Let me just see another program whether I'm using free. Class, I will get back to you. That will be a small bug in that particular case. But see, the concept of reallocation is that in the case of reallocation, you are just basically increasing the length of the memory allocation. So for example, initially you felt okay, the size of 15 into 4 integers, that is 60 bytes was enough. Now you realize that okay, not 60, basically I need 30 bytes more, right? So you can do a reallocation. I will just get back to you after the lecture on this particular code. I will just fix the bug and come back to you, right? Some small concepts are there. Free, you have already seen how does free work, so I need not explain to you again, right? And there is a concept called as dangling pointer. Now what does dangling pointer do? So let me start Paint because my digital pen is not working. So see what happens in case of dangling pointer. So I am assigning an integer pointer here with a malloc size of int here, right? Since if I'm not giving a size, by default it assumes a size of one integer, right? So 1 into, if I'm not giving anything, so it's just like, you know, in mathematics 5 is always equal to 1 into 5, right? So I'm having an integer a is equal to 560, and this ptr I'm assigning the value of ampersand a, right? So if you can see here, so this will be something called as 560. This is 560, and I am having a ptr. This is ptr. What is ptr containing? Ptr basically has the address of a. So let's say it having address of 2000. Fine. So I am basically showing the address. The address is 296. The value is 560. So now what I'm doing, I'm doing free PTR. So the moment I do a free PTR, what happens here is I basically lose out the access. This PTR access is lost, right? So when the PTR address is lost, so even though you can see the compiler is pointing you to the same location, this concept is known as a dangling pointer. So dangling point is a pointer which is not pointing to anything, right? So hence if you see the English term dangling also, dangling means to sway freely kind of thing, right? So you can see this particular PTR, it was assigned a memory location and then it was freed at this particular location. Since the pointer is freed, now basically this pointer becomes kind of an invalid pointer. It's not even a star, it's not even an integer pointer, it's a dangling pointer. So this was a variable initialized to hold the address, but now it's like an orphan, right? It does not have anything of its own. So this is known as a dangling pointer. So at times, if you have done pointer programs, you must have seen segmentation fault, core dumped, right? Segmentation fault kind of things that many a times occurs because of dangling pointer. So let's say you have a dangling pointer and you are trying to do some pointer manipulation using dangling pointer, then it results in segmentation fault, core dumped, right? Again, the concept of void pointer. So void pointer, as like when you do functions, what is functions? When you return something like, let's say void sum, which is returning the sum of two variables. So void means the function is not returning anything. So similarly, a void pointer is like I am declaring a pointer. So PTR can actually hold a memory address, but as of now, it is not clear what memory address it is holding, right? So we can later use it for typecasting. So we will see how it happens. So let me just execute this code. So see what happens, I'm declaring integer x as 4 and float y as 5.5. So I'm declaring two variables, simple. Now I'm having a void pointer, right? Now what I'm doing, I am having ptr is equal to ampersand of x. See, I'm only assigning the address of x to ptr. The pointer is still void. The PTR does not know whether I am pointing to an integer or a character or a float, right? I am only assigning it a memory location. Let's say this memory location is 2000. I am only assigning PTR 2000. But now if I want this pointer to actually print out this value, so what I have to do, see, I'm doing a typecasting here, right? So what I do here in this case, when I do a typecast here, see, let me show you how does this expand. Since the digital pen is not working. So initially assume this was 2000 as a base address. So when I typecast into this, I say this, okay, this becomes of an, this is now an integer pointer at base address 2000. Now what was at base address 2000? It was the base address of x. What was at x? X had a value 4, right? So ampersand x is basically 2000, and content, that star means content. So what is content at base address 2000? So this basically expands to 4. So this is how you work, right? So you can see that there are double stars here. So don't get confused here that this star basically means I need to get the content. See, this is typecasting. I am not doing a star PTR. I am having integer star and in the bracket I am placing it. So that means this pointer is basically converted into a integer pointer because PTR initially was a void pointer. And after converting into an integer pointer, it is having a base address of x, which is an integer. Now I am displaying the content of that particular value. Advantage of void pointer is that now see in this case I am doing ptr equal to ampersand y. What is ampersand y? It is pointing to a float value, right? So you can see I am basically having kind of a portable pointer, right? So portable pointer is something, now see exact same statement, just I am typecasting it to a float. Why float? Because now ptr contains a address of float type. So this is the use of void pointer. Basically allows you to have more flexibility, but in a normal day-to-day scenario, it is always good to have your own declaration of integer star p, float star y, and all those things, so that things becomes easy, right? So last two code, one is a null pointer. So there is a difference between a void pointer and a null pointer. See, a null pointer is something which has a address of 0000000, right? So null basically has to be written always in capitals because it's a keyword declared by the C compiler, right? So it may so happen that if you don't want to use a particular pointer for some while, or you don't want, or you want that it should not be misused, you can assign it to a null, right? It is just like when we assign an initialization to integers as 0. So like pointers should be by default initialized to null before using, right? And one of the doubts was what is a wild pointer, right? So wild pointer is as simple as when you're declaring integer star p. Now, although I am declaring p as to be of type integer, I am still not giving something of, let's say, ampersand b, right? So P basically can hold an address, but as of now, it does not know which integer variable of address it is. Basically, does not know. It does not hold any address as of now. It has the potential to hold an address, but as of now, it is like kind of jobless, right? No idea at all. So these are just known as wild pointers. So the moment you assign a particular, so let's say I'm doing integer x equal to 10. The moment I am assigning p equal to ampersand x, now it's not a wild pointer. Why? Because now p is having an address of memory location x. Right? So that was it. Wild pointer, frankly, I never heard this term. That was a doubt yesterday, so I just went through. So rarely people use dangling pointers, of course, because dangling pointers, because normally people use malloc. Like in the end of the course, when we will use data structures like linked list and stack, we will make use of malloc. And along with malloc, we basically make use of free also. So at times it happens that after free we do some pointer computation and then it results into a dangling operation, which is not allowed, and why we get segmentation fault, right? So that is the concept, and I think the class is over for today. For today we are done. Doubts are welcome. Others, if you're done, can leave. Okay, guys, and I will upload the lectures on YouTube. And thank you, guys. So you all